Want to learn how to build wealth one rental at a time? Find out on show number 7. Welcome, everyone. This is Ruben Galindo. I'm a real estate agent, real estate investor out of San Antonio, Texas. Today, I have the pleasure of being here with Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time. Michael, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, Ruben. Thank you very much for having me. This will be fun.
All right. Hey, Mike, this is definitely an exciting day for me. I've kind of watched your show throughout the last probably 2 years. So I've truly enjoyed all the value that you bring to all the real estate investors out there. So thank you for that, first of all.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
So, hey, so you're a big investor compared to me. So I'm excited to kind of learn, and I kind of want to know, how did you get started? What made Michael Zuber get involved in real estate investing?
Yeah, I wish I had a sexier story. The fact is, I got into real estate investing after getting kicked in the teeth in the stock market, right? Mm-hmm. I share this because I'm afraid we're kind of living a repeat of it. Right, we're recording this show in late September of 2020, and what I experienced in the early 2000s might be somewhat similar to someone today. So I successfully day traded stocks for quite a while. In about an 18-month run, I turned $7,000 into almost $200,000. So
wow,
I did pretty well, and I got the tax returns to prove it. But unfortunately, what happens when you get cocky? What happens when you're investing in a market that is going up? You just can't lose, and you just don't know that. No, you are not Warren Buffett. No, you just got lucky, right? You invested in a hot market, and everything you touched went up. I didn't realize that. Well, the market turned, and I lost significant portions of the day trading profits because the .com environment blew up. I then took the stock and invested it in 2 individual stocks because I was going to be I went from day trading to buy and hold. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the first stock I chose was a hot utilities company called Enron. That didn't end up well. I took my remaining what was left, and I said, you know what? I'm so nervous. I'm so scared. What's the safest thing out there? And at the time, it was phones, like AT&T was phones. And I said, okay, if I'm going to do communications, I'm going to invest in the highest quality communications company, which at the time meant I was going to invest in WorldCom. And of course, that blew up as well. So in very, very short order, I lost, over $160,000. And I went from feeling like a genius to feeling like an idiot. I came from very modest means, and knowing that I lost $160,000, which was more than my entire family had ever had saved ever, mm-hmm. was very disheartening. So I remember walking into a bookstore, defeated, depressed. And I went down an investing aisle and I stumbled across a purple book that we all know called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I picked it up and I couldn't put it down. I read it cover to cover 10 or 11 times. And that started my journey. I just knew there was a better way. I've sworn off stocks ever since. And real estate was my answer. The only problem with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, obviously, is while it changes your mindset and got me started, it's not a very good how-to book because there's no how-to in it. So I had to go figure that out for my own.
Right. Yeah. It kind of gets you motivated, gets you excited, and it gets you anxious to get started. But like you said, the step-by-step is not necessarily there. But it's definitely a good start. So I would always encourage everybody to read that. So tell us about that first property, Michael.
So again, first thing to mention is I live in the Silicon Valley or Mountain View, California specifically. So I spent a year trying to invest here. It doesn't make sense, right? It never, because again, I'm a cash flow investor, right? That's all I want. I wasn't into flipping or wholesaling or, anything like that. I wanted cash. I wanted cash flow because that's what Rich Dad, Poor Dad said, right? It says if you're an investor, you have cash flow. So after wasting a year looking in the Bay Area, we found Fresno, California, which is about a 2.5-hour drive one way. And we bought a property on Norris Drive for $107,000. It was all I ever knew was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 2-car garage. So that's what I bought. I bought a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 2-car garage, $107,000. It rented for $1,095. I say $1,100 for rounding. Right. And, we were on our way. Lots of mistakes were made and painful lessons learned. But yeah, that was the first property. And
how long ago was that, Michael? When was that?
December of 2002.
December of '02. Wow. So we're 18 years ago.
Yeah.
So, wow, you've been doing this quite a bit. Wow. So, are you still just doing single family homes? Have you transitioned into something different or?
Yeah. So my journey from '02 to kind of like '06, '07 was all single family homes. Again, I'm just like every investor out there. I didn't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we bought a house, and then a year later we bought another one, and then we bought another one, and then we did cash out refis and bought more. But we get to what turns out to be the peak, which I have no idea it's the peak at the time. I'm trying to buy the ninth house, and nothing makes sense. For example, that house on Norris Drive I talked about a minute ago, it's now worth 264, but it only rents for 1,100. So my mental accounting brain won't let me buy the ninth house because a house at 264 doesn't cash flow at 1,100. It
Right.
doesn't make sense. But that's all that's there. So I went to a local real estate meetup, and I saw the presenter speak, and I caught him afterwards, and I said, what would you do? Because I want more, but I'm not going to buy an alligator, right? Which I later termed in my book an alligator, negative cash flow. He goes, have you ever looked at small multifamily apartments? I hear the word apartments, and I'm like, I can't afford apartments. I'm not a multimillionaire, right? I don't have that kind of money. I remember, and he put his arm around me and he goes, oh, Michael, just go look at it. I'm like, all right, I don't know you, but what are you doing to me right now?
Mm-hmm.
So I did. And I'm so thankful for that meeting. That's why I still give him credit today. I found a 5-unit building, which is commercial.
Mm-hmm.
It's over 4, right?
Right.
It was 5 1-bedroom, 1 baths. I still own it today. We bought it for $223. And we did a 1031 exchange. So we 1031 out of Norris Drive at 264. We 1031 into a 5-unit building, and our cash flow exploded.
Oh,
And,
okay.
I mean, it just went up, right?
Yeah.
Because rents on the 5 units were over $3,000, or just they were $3,000, and the rents on the house were $1,100. My debt was lower. I mean, it was just you just couldn't go wrong. So I was a very simple person. If it worked once, I did it again. So in 2006 and 7, right before the market rolled over, we got out of every house and we went into small apartments. So we went from 8 units to 80 units in about a 14 or 16 month period. All 1031 exchange, no new money. And then the market crashes, and our net worth takes a hit because everything goes down, but our cash flow explodes. So it was, we got, some people call it lucky, maybe a little luck, but we were also prepared. We were always looking at our market, and we were, I still think about that house, right? Because some people say buy and hold forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I hate that strategy, because if I would have held that house forever, I mean, you could look it up on Zillow. It's 1818 Norris Drive East, 93703. Go look it up. I buy it 107. I sell it 264. It forecloses at 75.
Wow.
And then it retrades like a decade later for like 178 or 181 or something. It never gets back to 264. So I'd still be working if I didn't do a 1031 exchange.
Right.
So, that has taught me a lesson. When people want to overpay for something I own, I let them.
Right.
And
Wow.
that was a big deal for us.
Wow. So you scaled from 1 to 5 units, and you were cash flowing however many, a few $100s, and you just multiply that by 5.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. We went from 8 to 80 units, and I do the math in my book. It was a 5, a 13, a 10, an 18, a 12. I mean, yeah. And our cash flow, I mean, on the 8 houses, I don't remember exactly, but it was probably 1,000 to 1,400, right, a month. Because again, we bought into a rising market, so cash flow kept getting tighter and tighter. But yeah, once you get to 80 units and the debt's better, and all of that, cash flow is significantly more than that. So yeah, it was a good change for us.
Wow. So obviously, what has been the difference, Michael, for you as an investor when you compare small apartment complexes with single family homes? I mean, I would assume you do not self-manage. You probably have.
No,
Yeah.
Too far away.
Yeah.
Too far away. I property management is the hardest part of my real estate investing. I'll never do it.
Right.
There's lots of differences. First and foremost, the expense structure that you have to budget for is very different. For example, if you own an apartment building, even if it's 5 units, you're going to be paying water and garbage, most likely. You're likely also going to have lawn care, likely. You're going to have a lot more turnover. That is something I didn't know, right? The average tenure of my houses is over 8 years. The average tenure in an apartment is depending on the time frame, it's over 2 years, 2.5 years. That's just a lot more turns. And what will kill landlords is turns. And that's why I don't like the bigger is better strategy. When you say bigger is better and that's kind of full stop, I think it's disingenuous. I think you're marketing something. I think bigger is better most of the time. Like from 2010, 2011 to 2018, bigger was better. I mean, I have a spreadsheet I talk about, I teach, and I compare everything, right? I compare little 1-bedroom, 500 square foot houses built in the 20s against 20-unit buildings. And I use those specifically because those are things I bought on the same spreadsheet. I don't treat them different. I want to know how hard my cash is working. I don't give a rat's ass about telling people how many units I own. I only care about the net, what I can spend on. Right. I don't care about amortization. I don't care about appreciation. I don't care about any of that other stuff. I want to know how much money comes into my account for my property manager, how much goes out, and I can live on the rest. And that's what we've been doing the last several years.
Right. Yeah, because tenant turnover, obviously, there's an expense anytime you have a tenant turnover.
For sure.
So is there anything that you do to minimize that, or is there anything different or special?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays I don't do carpet as much. The first 5 or 6 years, I put carpet everywhere except bathrooms and kitchens. Now I use that laminated flooring. I think it's called LVT.
LVT, yeah.
Yeah, I use that everywhere. Small houses, I'll use it everywhere. If it's a little nicer, I may put carpet in the bedrooms. But I would say I use carpet a lot less. Nowadays I do granite or quartz countertops instead of Formica. The difference isn't that much. So they just last longer. Everything's the same. I do the same 2-tone paint inside and out on all my properties. That would just makes it easier, right? You don't have to think about it. You can just go take empty paint cans and they're labeled inside walls, inside trim, outside walls. Same stuff. So anything that you can just make more standard, it just saves on costs.
Right. Yeah. I do the same thing with my paint. I take a photograph of that paint code and I upload it into my Google Drive. So I know exactly, if I need to remember what that is, I pull it up on my phone right away, just show that person at Lowe's or Home Depot, this is what I need, and they get it done. Yeah. So yeah, that's great. So can you tell us tell us the story on what the best deal that you remember that you acquired? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many. Again, the part of this business is you got to stay in the market all the time, right? I believe a deal of the decade comes along once a year, but you have to be looking. So I've done lots of them. I remember buying an 18-unit building, zero down. That was fun, right? Wow. During the depth of the crash, an owner had sold the 18-unit building for $1.44 million. They had decided to take back 70% as a loan, right? So the seller carried. Unfortunately, over the 3 or 4 years that they had sold that, the person who bought it couldn't perform. So by the time it was brought to my attention, it was in really bad shape. And I remember walking through the unit with the owner and going, you got a problem, right?
Yeah.
I'm willing to take this on, but we're going to have to work something out.
Right. So
first and foremost, we agreed to a purchase price of $700,000, which was half of what he sold it for before. I agreed to zero down. I did agree to escrow $50,000 because the building was in desperate need of repair. So he could see that and he would get communications. And then we agreed to 4% interest rate, interest only for 10 years, I think it was.
Wow.
So again, zero down, 4% interest, 10 years, which, we eventually refied him out when he, about 5 or 6 years in. But yeah, that was a really good deal. And, we've done many like that. Yeah, it's
wow. That's a great one. So his problem was an opportunity for you.
Yeah. The biggest thing in this business, again, is you have to stay in the game. You have to value your reputation. Markets change all the time, right? We're at a market craziness today, especially single family homes. It will change. I don't know when, I don't know what will cause it, but it will change. And, you just got to be ready for it. Don't over leverage. What kills people in a downturn is over leverage. The reason I like single family versus commercial today is commercial debt has terms, 3, 5, 7, 10 years, forces you to refi. And I'm just not comfortable where values will be. And I'm not comfortable
Right.
where interest rates will be. But if you can get a single family home up to a fourplex today, you can lock in the best 30-year rates I've ever seen, right?
Right.
Something with a 2 on it. If you're an investor, probably a 3. So even if values turn, that's why I liked houses in the beginning. Even if values turn, as long as I'm cash flowing, yeah, my net worth takes a hit. Maybe I don't feel like such a genius, but it's okay. It's
Right.
okay.
So a lot of our audience here are fairly new investors, and just to make sure that they understand, anything above 5 units, you have to go commercial loan, correct?
5 and above.
Five and
And above.
above, right? Okay. And obviously the terms are completely different than your 1 to 4 unit.
Oh yeah, completely different. Yeah, it's what I would tell most new investors today to learn your market, learn what you know, and that's likely going to be singles to fourplexes.
Right.
Don't overthink it in the beginning. Don't believe Grant Cardone that bigger is better in Class
Yeah.
A this and
Right.
that. Get started with a house. Even Grant Cardone started with a house. So cut your teeth on something it gives you a lot more exits.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny you say it, Michael, because I've got a lot of phone calls from people that want to get started, and they're thinking, fourplexes to triplexes, and so I ask them, okay, so what's your goal?
Right.
Are you looking at maybe moving into one of those units,
Yeah. House
or
hack.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, no, I already have my house. I just want to get started. I said, look, this is my opinion. I think that I would say start with a single family home first, because if you've never done this before, this is your first time. You go and buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, and it turns out that several months into the role of being a landlord,
Mm-hmm.
you end up finding out that's not what you want to do. You really don't like it, or it's
Yeah.
just not what you thought it was going to be. Now you got to look at it. Okay, I need to get rid of it. Now,
Yeah.
who is typically in the market for those type of units? It's usually investors.
Yeah.
Not always, but usually they are.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: investors want to get the best deal. They don't want to necessarily be buying market values.
Yeah.
And so, you might end up regretting making that move. Compared to a single family home, if you buy a house, it turns out you don't like it, your odds of getting market value are very, very high, because it's probably that next family just looking for that next home.
Exactly right.
Right.
Yeah. First one being a house is just better for most people, right? If you're a contractor or a realtor, or you have, your family's done this business for years, go wherever you want.
Right.
But if you're just watching Bigger Pockets or YouTube University, do yourself a favor and make that first one a house. Much easier to get in, much easier to get out, because this business isn't for everyone.
Right.
So cut your teeth where you have the least downside.
Right. Yeah. So what about that nightmare deal? Which one was just a nightmare for you? Do you have a deal out there that was probably one of the toughest things you had to go through, and either you got rid of it or you overcame it?
Yeah, well, I think the best story I have, it's in our book, was actually that first house on Norris Drive. So again, right, let me set up this scenario, right? So we spend a year every Sunday looking in the Bay Area. It doesn't work. We finally choose Fresno, California. It's a 2.5-hour drive. We drive up there one Saturday or Sunday. It's the only house available. We put an offer and we buy it. We celebrate. We're happy. We're landlords. Yes, it's working. Rich Dad Poor Dad is working. Tenants move in, first month deposit, and lo and behold, 2 weeks later, the wife takes off to New Mexico. They get a divorce.
Ooh.
The husband does not like this, and he stops going to work, and he turns into what I call a professional alcoholic, and he destroys my house. So we never get a second month rent. I invest in California, which means he got about 75 days of free rent. I had to pay $1,000 in eviction fees to an attorney. And then once we go inside, I'm sure I cried because he had destroyed our house, right? To the tune of $15,000, right?
Wow.
To put it back together.
Wow.
And I remember walking back to the car afterwards and thinking to my wife, who's Olivia, and going, I'm expecting her to just rip me a new one, right? Because we had just lost all that money in the stock market. Remember, like we talked about earlier. And
Yes, sir.
now we just bought this rental property in a city that we don't know anyone and we've never lived in. And I'm like, God, I did it again. I'm hurting my family.
Mm-hmm.
And she looks at me and goes, did we do anything wrong? I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, did we run a wrong process to check our tenant. And I'm like, no, we checked income, we checked credit, criminal record, we called the past landlord. We did everything right. There's just not a box on the form that says, are you going to get a divorce?
Right.
That doesn't exist.
Right.
And she looked at me and she goes, okay, let's fix it and try again. I'm like, wow. Really?
Wow.
We're going to try again? Did you not see that? Did you see something different? And she gets all the credit in the world. So that first house turns out great, as I've already shared with you. The next tenant moves in, never misses a payment. In fact, they are in there when we sell it because we do that 1031 exchange into that 5 units that we still own today. So the story turns out great, but boy, I thought I was dead after that first horrible experience.
Yeah. So, that just goes to show, Michael, that, even though we do our due diligence in the screening process, it's not perfect. It's not a perfect system. And you just got to ensure that you do your due diligence and just kind of go from there. And these things are gonna happen. And the great thing is Olivia, your wife, was very understanding. And obviously she was thinking very logically.
Yeah, because I was emotional at that time.
Yeah, you were the emotional one. She was thinking logically, and I think that really helped you and kind of maybe feeling some pressure off.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I was in a bad headspace.
Yeah, my wife is. I named her as one of my MVPs in the Bigger Pockets episode, and man, she's great. She's learning a lot. She didn't really know anything about real estate investing, and as I been in that journey, she's come along with me, and she's learning a lot of things, and I'm real impressed with, like the other day we were looking at a property and we were talking numbers, and she said, hey, don't you think that's too much? And she's never said that to me. She never has. And you know what? She was right. She was right. So I said, okay, I'm going to leave this offer as is. If it works out, it worked out. Because as much as we talk about, do not allow your emotions to get the best of you, base it on your numbers. I preach that. And, but I'm a human being. And sometimes I get caught in the moment, right? But I'm glad that I have her there to make sure that she keeps me in check.
Yeah.
So,
one of the things that we instituted probably after year 5 or 6 is my job was always to find the deals, right? But I should say Olivia took and I gave her veto power. Because you're right? Anytime you spend weeks and months finding a deal, right? In hot markets, it's hard. You sometimes get so focused on it, you forget to look up. So we instituted a veto rule that she can veto a deal for any reason. And I'm not allowed to ask why. Because if I ask why, then I'm just going to, I'm going to respond and, I'm a guy, right? You tell me a problem, I try to fix it. So I'm not allowed to ask why. And she could veto any deal for any reason, which she has. I think she's vetoed 3 or 4 deals over the years. And it's a great thing because, again, I'm sure they're bad deals. Like today, right? It's a hot market. It's crazy hot. So I'm sure without her veto, I'd overpay for something. So shout out to Olivia.
Okay. Excuse me. So you've used cash out refis. Have you ever used HELOCs or hard money or anything like that?
Oh yeah. I've used HELOCs, hard money, private money. So let's do HELOCs first. So we live in Mountain View, California. We bought in 99. We have a lot of equity. So we would always use a HELOC for cash. It became a BRRRR project, right? It wasn't called BRRRR when we were doing it, but we would use it to buy a dump. We would fix it up and then refi out. We did that a lot years ago. The funny thing about how we found hard money is, so we roll over, right? We're at 80 units or 82 or 85 or whatever it is. It rolls over. And then we go to a bank to find a house because we're now back to buying houses because houses are crashing, right?
Right.
And we go to a bank which has all our money. And we're like, hey, we'd like to buy another rental house. And they looked at us and like, thank you for that. We're not doing any of those right now. The market, because again, right, I don't know, Bear Stearns just went bankrupt or whatever it was. And like banks stopped lending. And we're like, that's weird, right? We have an 800 credit score, 7-figure net worth, 6-figure incomes, both of us. And the bank told us no. I'm like, I didn't know they could do that. They didn't even say no. So I went, so that bank knew us, right? Knew us for a couple of decades. So I went right across the street to another big bank. And I said, hey, we would like to buy another investment loan. Okay, who are you? What do you do? Oh, by the way, here's your real estate schedule real estate. And they looked at it and their eyes got like this big. It's like, oh my God. Oh, sorry, sir. We don't invest it. We don't give loans to investors like you. You're too risky. I'm like, what the hell do you mean I'm too risky? Right? I've been doing this a long time. I got this, I got that. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Why am I risky? That was their opinion at the time. So I'm like, shoot, how do we buy another house if we're risky? So we do Google searches and we find hard money really close by, and we didn't know any different. So we did hard money like 4 or 5 times. It was really expensive. It was like 12 points or 2 points, 12% interest, 60% of purchase. It's crazy. But again, we just wanted to keep buying. It was 2010. Right. It was the best time to buy. And we just kept telling people what we were doing. And lo and behold, we found private money. We actually never asked for it. But we had lots of friends come to us and go, hey, I'm earning nothing in the bank. I see what you're doing. Would you, we want to be a part of it. I'm like, okay, what are you thinking? I'm like, what do you want? I'm like, well, if you come in for the full purchase price, I'll pay 10% interest only for 10 years. And they're like, done. I'm like, whoa, that was easy.
Yeah.
Can I get 8? Nope, 10. I already told 10. Damn it. So yeah, we just started. Literally friends and family kept coming in for purchase. We would do the repairs on our dime, which we could do from cash flow.
Right.
And we put about $2.5-3 million in private money to work during the crash, buying everything we could. So yeah, we've done hard, private, bank, equity line. We've done commercial pooled loans. We've done lots of things.
Yeah, I've only done your regular conventional. I do currently have a HELOC, and I've used that. I use that HELOC I used it as my 20% down and the other 80% from another bank. So I was able to acquire one. It was a short sale property at 100% financing.
There you go.
So it worked out. Now, it wasn't my first deal, and I wouldn't recommend that on deal number 1.
Yeah, let's just put this out here because I think it's really important. I would never put my house at risk, right? With my home, right? Mm-hmm. I only tell people that's cool, right? When you have experience. And generally, I want you to be out of that in a year or less, right? I want you to work on that project over there, fix it up, do a cash out refi, and pay off your HELOC.
Right.
I've been doing this almost 20 years. I saw people lose their homes in the last crash, and that is so heartbreaking. Right. Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's one thing to lose an investment property, but to be in such bad shape where you lose your home, yeah. I never want to see that again. So don't put your house at risk. All these people in the Bay Area, I can use a HELOC for this and that and this and that. Well, HELOCs can get called. What are you going to do then? And it's people want leverage for some reason. It's okay to go a little bit slower. Right. It's okay.
So, hey, Michael, so tell us about one rental at a time. Tell us about your business. Let's talk about your business now.
Yeah. So one rental at a time actually didn't even dawn on me until after I retired. So I retired February 1st of 2018 at the age of 45. And I was like, what do I do now? So you retire. At least this was my story. I spent 2 days calling everybody in my phone. Even if I hadn't talked to you in years, if you were in my phone, you got a phone call. And my face hurt because I was smiling so much. But then I got depressed because I'm still up at 6 a.m. Today I was up at 5:45. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel like I was contributing or doing anything. So I was almost going to just go get a job so I could feel like I'm contributing. And then it just hit me out of nowhere that I should at least document our story, which became the book, One Rental at a Time. As I'm drafting it, I wrote it as a compliment to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because again, as I say in the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like I said at the very beginning, started our journey. So from starting our journey in that bookstore to 15 years, what happened? The good, the bad, the ugly, what went right, what went wrong. So that's in the book. That's about 60% of the book. And then we do, lessons learned and 21 recommendations and all of that. So that became the book. And then ultimately I'm like, you know what, that was kind of fun. So I created a YouTube channel, which you were nice enough to be a guest on, where I do a daily videos. I do about 3 videos a day of original content. I usually do those in the morning. So by 10 o'clock, I'm done. And I'm off for my day. But yeah, One Rental at a Time is a brand or a story. It's our story. I do believe if everybody can get to 4 rentals, one at a time, their life changes. Once you get to 4, if you want to get to 10, great. Yeah, it's just a journey of mine to help people get a better financial future. So.
And you sell some courses on your website as well, don't you?
I do. I finally had to create one. It was never my thing, right, to do that. But I kept getting invited out to more and more coffees and dinners, and I just had to do something because I couldn't keep saying yes. So I took a month about a year ago to document everything I did, and I created a course called How to Start One Rental at a Time. It's not a fluffy course. It is bare bones. It is go get focused, do this 20 minutes a day like I do. Everything in the course is what I do today. You want to talk about looking at your market every day? I do it every day. And I've been doing it for 20 years. You want to talk about comparing a 500 square foot house with a 20 unit apartment? I do it every day. I actually give you my spreadsheet. I talk about how to build a team and all of these things. And then the best part is I've kept it reasonable. I only charge $199 and I give that away. It's no additional fees. And again, I'm a giver. So I've created a private Facebook group just for students, which if you buy the course, you can get added to, ask questions. Now it's getting so big that students are helping students. It's pretty fun. And then lastly, I'll never do mentoring. I think it is, I'll never do one-on-one mentoring because I never want to sell my hours, right? I'd have to charge $1,000 an hour or something to make it worthwhile. But instead, I will give 30 minutes a day every Saturday at 9:00 Pacific. I go into the Facebook group, I start a live stream, and I go, great guys, I'm here. Ask me anything you want. So that's what I'm doing. I'm comfortable where I'm at. I'm going to reach down and pull as many people up as I can. And the best thing I've created, the book is awesome, but that How to Start One Rental at a Time is the best thing I've created. Nice.
And where can people find that, Michael?
You can go to any of my YouTube videos. It's one of the links, but again, you can go to onerentalatatime.com. It's everything I have is one rental at a time.
Okay. Hey, Michael, thank you for your time. I appreciate you telling us your story. Appreciate all the nuggets you gave everybody out there. Is there anything that maybe we haven't talked about that you want to make sure that you share with the audience?
Yeah, I think the most important thing when you're becoming a landlord, or at least thinking about it, is you need to believe it's possible. This journey to wealth with one rental at a time takes time. It's not instant gratification. It takes time. It compounds. I tell a story often about year 8 of our journey where I fundamentally had to pull over my car and I lost it because I just didn't know if all the sacrifice was worth it. I promise you it's worth it. We replaced 2 6-figure incomes because of this. My wife's been out of work for 7 or 8 years now. I'm 2.5 years. It's absolutely worth it. It takes time, but it's worth it. So believe it's possible.
All right. Hey, Michael, thank you for joining us today. Again, thank you for everything, all the value you've given us today. Folks, thank you for following my channel, and be sure to stay tuned. We're going to have future videos with other investors. If you want to reach out to Michael, please do so at his website, and that's www.onerentalatatime.com. Is that correct?
Yep.
So check out his book, check out his courses. I'm sure they bring a lot of value. If you want to reach out to me, go ahead and go to my website at www.sanantoniorealestateinvestors.com. Schedule an appointment. I'd be glad to talk to you to see how I can help you with your real estate journey. Michael, once again, thank you.
You got it, buddy. Thanks, Ruben.